Hey there, guys. So I want to thank you, as always, for taking the time to check out this week's live stream, where we'll be discussing the topic of muscle pump for the week. So, in this topic, we're going to be discussing quite a few different points here, and I really want to sort of emphasize how unique this topic is going to be because this topic is very important in a lot of ways, where we're going to be talking about how you can really benefit from muscle pump as well as really understanding what the muscle pump is. So this is going to be a little bit detailed in a lot of different aspects, but I believe you guys will find it pretty insightful and pretty valuable to take with you and to really think about as you're going into your workouts and having that sort of in mind when you are going through the workouts and having that feeling of that muscle pump. So I will explain a little bit more on what that means and really dive into this topic and give you guys a little bit more insight. So, with that being said, I do want to mention my website, which is bponlinefitness.com. It is here on screen. Again, as I mentioned every week, you can check out a lot of information on there as it relates to online fitness coaching, as well as different topics related to fitness, nutrition, as well as recovery in itself. So there's so many different things that you can check out on there. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions on anything I talk about, whether it be in my blog, my email newsletter. Feel free to let me know any questions that you have. But that is there for you guys to check out. There's a ton of free information on there that you can view. And of course, you can sign up to online fitness coaching through there. So definitely check it out and feel free to reach out if you have any questions on anything on my website. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and talk about this topic, which is the science behind muscle pump. So, what is the muscle pump really? So, basically, what this is if you've ever had the feeling where, you know, you're kind of going through a workout and you're feeling pretty good in that workout. You're feeling pretty pumped. That's where that sort of term comes from. And what it is this is basically a temporary swelling in the muscles. So this is caused by an increase blood flow and fluid pooling during exercise. So, blood flow response is, of course, where the muscles demand more oxygen and nutrients, and this is where the blood is rushing into the veins and is compressing and trapping that blood. So, that's where you get sort of this pump feeling when you are having a really good workout. This also leads to cellular swelling, which can be, in relation to physical exercise, mental health, nutrition, and lifestyle. So there's a lot of different things that really influence that cellular swelling in this particular exercise. So when you are performing these exercises, it really helps to understand more on what this feeling is so that you have a better grasp of it and know how it can benefit your routine. So, as we're discussing this topic, I do want to mention a little bit more on the blood flow mechanics during training when it comes to these workouts. So, there's an increased demand on working muscles, which is going to require a little bit more oxygen and nutrients to be delivered to the blood, and it's going to help the heart pump more blood to active areas. This also leads to vasodilation, which is blood vessels widening to allow higher blood flow to the muscles. So this is another effect there. So the pump effect here is that extra blood and fluid buildup causes swollen and taut muscle sensation. So that's that feeling that you are sort of having in your muscles when you are performing workouts that are pretty intensive and, really give you that pump feeling. So, as we're continuing on, I know I touched a little bit on cellular swelling and I meant to expand a little bit on that topic because I didn't want to shorten it in particular. So, Let me take a few moments to sort of discuss the role of cellular swelling. This is also known as the muscle pump. It's the temporary expansion of muscle cells due to fluid accumulation during resistance training. So, this is caused by increased intracellular pressure from metabolites, blood flow, and plasma influx. So, you don't necessarily need to know exactly what all of those mean. You just need to know that this is sort of the process that's happening here. This stimulus that's being, imposed on the muscles basically. So how does this stimulate hypertrophy? So I don't want this to just be about the aspect, of just the muscle pump itself, but I do want it to relate to exactly understanding why this is important and why it matters to you, not just to understand, the scientific basis for it, but to understand how it benefits your workout routine and what influence it plays in your workout routine. So, how does this stimulate hypertrophy? And again, to clarify what hypertrophy is that's basically muscle gain, that's muscle growth. So, mechanical tension and osmotic stress are combined, and this is leading to an anabolic signal. So, anabolic, as you know, is basically that muscle growth process. Cellular swelling activates the pathways that increase muscle protein synthesis, which keep in mind that muscle protein synthesis is what happens when your muscles are sort of repairing. So a lot of times you'll usually hear that you need to consume a certain amount of protein that can help with that sort of muscle protein synthesis process. And that's what that means is that when you get adequate protein in your system, it helps to sort of make the muscle repair process happen in a more fluid manner, in a more, more productive manner, I guess you could say. So this is going to decrease protein breakdown, which again, breakdown is not a good thing. So, like I've discussed in previous live streams, when we talk about muscle breakdown, that often happens when your muscles are not getting sufficient nutrients. So, you're not consuming the proper foods in your diet to help with the muscle repair process. So, you don't want to go into a breakdown as it relates to muscle breakdown as well as protein breakdown. So, this also signals muscle adaptation and growth. So, when you are having that feeling of the muscle pump, this is oftentimes a good thing that you're really getting your body's getting that sort of that nutrient delivery to your muscles, in other words. So I will sort of expand upon this, and I don't want you to necessarily rely on this feeling every time you go into a workout because it doesn't mean, it is a good indicator that you're progressing, but it doesn't solely mean that you have to rely on this feeling every time you go in a workout, if that makes sense. So, nutrient delivery on overdrive. So, when you're getting proper nutrients, as I've just discussed, nutrients play a key role, especially when we're talking about the muscle protein synthesis process. So when you're getting adequate nutrition from, this process, it's going to make a big difference. So nutrient delivery on overdrive. So the pump equals a highway for nutrients. So this is again increasing that blood flow, which is delivering amino acids, glucose, and oxygen directly to those working muscles. So when your muscles are going through that pump process, you're having those nutrients being delivered directly to them. So that's why you have that feeling in in another aspect in itself. So faster repair and recovery. So when you have this sort of feeling, your muscles are going to get immediate access to the raw materials needed to rebuild those fibers. So it's also important to keep in mind that this can improve your overall energy replenishment. So carbs are shuttled back into glycogen stores for faster post training. So glycogen again is, to sort of clarify what that means, because I know there's different terms here, and I do want to, have you guys a better understanding on what I'm talking about and not just giving you guys these crazy terms that you don't understand fully. Glycogen is basically an energy source for the muscles, and oftentimes you find glycogen, when it comes to carbs. When you consume carbs, of course, that's helping to sort of replenish those glycogen stores in your body, which is giving you more energy overall. So when you have proper, carb intake, especially quality carbs and complex carbs, this is going to help with that sort of post-training recovery. Another thing too is growth signals triggered. So enhanced delivery supports the protein synthesis process. As I mentioned, that basically means that that's the muscle repair process. And it sets the stage for hypertrophy, in other words, for the muscle gain process. So keep all of that in mind. Again, guys, if there's anything that you don't fully understand on what I'm talking about, feel free to ask me any questions that you have. So I want to continue on here as we're talking about this topic. And like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, I wanted to discuss sort of the difference between understanding pump versus progress. So, like I mentioned just a few moments ago, it's still good to have that feeling of that muscle pump. That's not necessarily a bad feeling. But what I do again want to expand upon is that you don't need to necessarily rely on that feeling to know that you're making progress. So again, the pump is cellular swelling. So this is like a temporary feeling that you're going to feel in your workouts, where it's basically the blood plasma and nutrients are flooding the working muscles. So this metabolic stress traps the lactate and hydrogen ions and metabolites in your body. So this is going to have a temporary increase in growth factors, which again, if you've heard me discuss, a little bit about hormones and growth factors, especially when we're talking about, fats and things of that nature, when you consume, those good fats, and then two, you're having this process of the muscle pump, you're going to have sort of that spike in those hormones, which, in turn, like testosterone and things of that nature, are going to be boosted. So, again, there's other, signals as well, hormone signals such as IGF-1 and nitric oxide, I should say. Duration lasts only a few hours, so it's not a direct structural change. So again, the pump process is very temporary. It's only a short-term thing. So how do you really identify progress? So mechanical tension is important. So heavy loads create lasting hypertrophy signals. So when you're lifting heavier weights, when you're focusing on, controlled form in your workouts, that's going to make the most difference in overall progress. So satellite cells and myonuclei. So this is adding nuclei to the muscle fibers, which these nuclei are helping with the long-term growth capacity in the muscles. So all you need to know there is that when you're focusing on the aspect of the mechanical tension and focusing on just, lifting heavier loads while at the same time focusing on proper form, this is helping with long-term growth overall, not just a temporary, sort of pump process. So again, continuing on here, protein synthesis does play an important role as well. So it's going to help with repairing and building stronger fibers over days and week. So when you're when you have a proper, system where in the body where the system is being, repaired, the muscles are being repaired, this is going to help with long-term progress, not just in the temporary short term. So you need to have proper nutrients, of course, consistently in your diet. It's not just something that you just do here and there. In order to help, keep that protein synthesis process going to, aid in progress, you have to make sure that you're getting the proper, of course, lean proteins, your complex carbs, your fats, your healthy fats in particular, so that you can help continue to keep that process going. Adaptation, of course, growth compounds with progressive overload and recovery. So even if you have that temporary pump, that's not going to mean anything if you're not, being structured in how you go about your workout routine. You've got to make sure that you focus on, especially with muscle gain, that you focus on progressive overload. And again, I've discussed progressive overload time and time again, but that is basically the process where you're gradually increasing that sort of intensity in your workouts to help with your body in adapting to, that new sort of weight or load that you're lifting. So that's basically what progressive overload is. It's also important, of course, the recovery side of things, meaning, how your sleep is, how you feel overall, and how you incorporate also active recovery, doing light activity in your routine to help aid in sort of that hypertrophy muscle gain process as well. So, the psychological benefits of the pump. So, again, we're going back to talking about the muscle pump in itself and what are the benefits that can come from that pump. And again, keep in mind that this can be a short burst. Sometimes it can last longer. But basically, what you get from this is it's an instant feedback. So, the pump shows you're engaging the right muscles and training effectively. Again, like I mentioned, the pump is not a bad thing. It's really good to feel that sort of sensation in your body, and it's really showing that you're doing the right things. But it's not something that is necessarily, geared towards long-term progress, but it's a good thing to have that feeling. So this can boost motivation, helps you, feel bigger and tighter, provides a sense of progress during that session. So you have a good session when you have sort of that muscle pump happening. So it's another confidence builder. The temporary size increase enhances the self-image and drives to stay consistent. It also heightens your awareness. This is a really good thing that can come with the muscle pump is that you're more aware of what you're doing in your workouts. So this is going to lead you to really target those muscles that you're engaging that day and focus more on strength and control of those particular muscles. So there's a lot of great psychological benefits that come with the muscle pump in itself, and it's giving you that instant feedback that you're doing something right in your workouts. So continuing on here, supplements and nutrition that influences the pump. So it's a good thing to give proper nutrients in your body when you have the sensation to help with really maximizing that temporary sort of, process that's happening in your muscles. So hydration is important, of course. So it's important to get, proper water and electrolytes. So this is sodium, potassium, magnesium in your system. This keeps the muscles full and contractions strong. It's also helpful to have nitrate-rich foods, which are beets, spinach, arugula, to boost that nitric oxide to improve vasodilation and blood flow. Citrulline and arginine, so popular pre-workout supplements that increase that nitric oxide, supporting longer and stronger pumps. Carbohydrates, again, carbohydrates are a big energy source that you need and can be very beneficial before workout, but it can also play a good role when it comes to the muscle pump itself. So carbs replenish that glycogen, which again is that energy source in your body, and draws water into the muscles, amplifying fullness during training. Balanced meals, again, as you're going throughout your day, still getting the benefits of that pump, you still want to have those balanced meals throughout the day. So adequate protein and carb intake while focusing on micronutrients. Again, to clarify what micronutrients are these are nutrients that you usually get in smaller amounts. So like when I talk about macronutrients, we're talking about, nutrients like proteins, carbs, and fats. Whereas micronutrients are usually in smaller amounts. Usually these are specific vitamins and minerals. So this could be like your vitamin C, vitamin B, B complex vitamins. Those are kind of where you find micronutrients. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about micronutrients. It's those type of nutrients. You could also think of like zinc and, magnesium, anything like that is going to be sort of in that micronutrient sort of, category, I guess I should say there. So ensure muscles have the fuel and nutrients to support pumps and recovery. So again, don't just focus on that pump. Make sure that you're still getting good nutrients throughout the day so that you can still benefit towards the overall muscle growth process or progress, I should say. So the myth versus facts about the pump. So myth one is that no pumps means no growth. So again, like I discussed, it's not bad that you're not having that sensation because growth comes oftentimes silently. It's not like a loud sort of thing that happens. Growth is a gradual thing. So, growth comes from progressive overload, as I just mentioned, as well as a combination of recovery and nutrition. So, pumps are a signal and not the sole driver. So, pumps are a good thing, showing that you're doing the right thing, but they are not overall, an indicator of where your progress is heading. Myth two is that the pump equals permanent muscle size. So, of course, when you have that muscle pump, you'll notice that your muscles feel fuller and bigger. But this is temporary, as I just mentioned. So, the blood flow and fluid are building up all at once. So, again, long-term hypertrophy requires consistent training, through months and years. So to get that muscle size and growth for the long term, you've got to be consistent and not rely on just that temporary feeling of the pump. Myth three is that only bodybuilders benefit from the pump. So this is not true at all. Pumps help anyone. Again, this is a good process. It's boosting nutrient delivery. It's making you more aware of mind muscle connection, which means how you're performing your workouts, as well as giving you more motivation in those workouts to really push through it and complete it. So just know that these are some myths and facts to sort of keep in mind when we're talking about the muscle pump itself. Alrighty, guys. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I really hope that you found this helpful and valuable. I really enjoy talking about these topics and really giving you guys a little bit more insight on these topics and understanding these points a little bit better. So if you have any questions about anything I discussed in this stream, if there's something that you found a little bit confusing, feel free to let me know and I can clarify what I'm talking about there because I know that some of these points can be kind of confusing and I do try as much as possible to make these, different topics understandable and really make it to where, it's easy to get a grasp on what is being discussed here. So, if you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to let me know. So, with all that being said, guys, this is all I have for you. Check out my website, bponlinefitness.com. I do want to mention that I will have a X Spaces discussion tomorrow where I'm going to be going over tendons and how tendons are grown and sort of how this can benefit your workouts, but also to be aware the, sort of influence that tendons have on your overall workout. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But thank you guys. I really do appreciate your time. I enjoy talking about these topics. I did want to mention too, I'm in the works of a new YouTube video that I've, started to put together this week and getting ready to, sort of get it compiled and edited together. It may be a few weeks before I get it uploaded, but I did want to share that I do have an original video outside of the live streams that I'm going to be uploading pretty soon. So it's coming along well, so definitely watch for that. Again, this will be on YouTube for you to view if you want to check it out or if you're not able to watch it in real time. So thank you guys once again for your time, and I hope that you found this helpful and valuable. And I will definitely have another live stream next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time and I'll have that event posted pretty soon for you to view. But with all that being said, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next one.